You're seeing it in the back, of course. We're already getting stuck into our first game of the day. That will be Fnatic versus Virtus.Pro. We'll start talking about Fnatic first as well, because they had a great game yesterday. They took down Secret 7-2, and the good thing is they barely made any mistakes.
Yeah, they looked so confident. They looked properly like a team. They did. I have a hard time even counting mistakes that they made, because they just played a really, really good game. The problem for Fnatic, and I call them this, and I think Leon even agreed with me in the interview, they're a yo-yo team. They go up, they go down. They have one good game against Secret, but then the week before, the day before that, not the day, but the play day before that, they lost to Wild. How can you take that as something like consistent? It's not.
No.
So hopefully we see a team now that after that game can do something together again.
Yeah, and yesterday we discussed a lot of the mistakes that Fnatic were making. They weren't really understanding their win conditions. Right now we have Fresh at the Teleswinner to explain that yesterday they got their win conditions right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think we did criticize Fnatic yesterday. It's worth saying that in their pregame, and it's worth saying the one thing that the Fnatic fans and that what we want from Fnatic is most rounds just get your win condition correct and execute them. I'm not going to show you a really exciting clip here because it's not a really exciting clip, but it's very important. It starts off Church Arsenal of Clubhouse. There's a fight going on down here between a defender highlighted in blue at the bottom and an attacker inside of Lounge. What's the win condition for Fnatic though? 55 seconds left, 5v5. This is where teams want to test their executes. Now, you'll see that this defender down here, he disappears down into blue, chooses to engage and disengage from that fight. And I think that's really smart because we've seen a lot of times from Fnatic where they've made stupid individual decisions that's cost them rounds. If Secret were executing a 5v4 there, it might have been a completely different story. As you can see, he gets his way all the way back down into blue. Now, I'll pause it there very quickly because Fnatic know they have to come basically from 4 locations. Main stairs, Moto, Dirt, and Blue. What do? 5v5, hold it. And they win the round flawlessly. And I think it's not really an exciting clip, as I say, but it's worth illustrating and highlighting. When Fnatic understand their win conditions, they can execute them well. Where they've had issues is when they haven't executed their win conditions well, and that's been a problem for them. It was a great round, it set them off well, and they got the job done yesterday.
Well, that was a great explanation. Thank you so much, Fresh, for that. We'll move on to their opponents as well, because when we talk about Virtus.Pro, there's a lot of positives, but also some negatives from yesterday.
Yeah, Jack was speaking about on that illustration about non-exciting stuff. That is definitely what Virtus.Pro have been this season. They have looked very, very, very rough until their last game against BDS, which is the game where, well, that's the kind of one they are okay with losing because of how dominant BDS have been. Had they had this activation much earlier, we would have seen a different Virtus.Pro for this stage, and I hope we see that Virtus.Pro we saw against BDS. I hope we see that today, because they didn't make mistake. They played like a team, and they actually had their basics down. Problem was, they went up against BDS, so you don't want to do that against them.
My worry for Virtus.Pro, and if you look at their results, is it's a lot of 7-5 losses.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it was a 7-5 victory against G2. They're in every single game they play. They're not getting swept away. But these losses have started to accumulate now. That it's probable that we're going to see them in the open qualifier playoffs, which isn't something we've seen from this Virtus.Pro team basically ever. They've always been in the upper echelon of EU League. So for me, I worry about them. I don't worry about performance, but I worry about the fact that they've had all of these bad results and whether that will take a toll on them.
I doubt it will. I think it's just one of those things. It's a period for the team that they're going down. Like, we haven't seen anything that indicates that they're having a rough time with each other. We haven't seen that they're indicating anything that's negative between each other, like in the group or in the team or the org, whatever. They've always been their own team in terms of meta. Yeah. It's just one time that it doesn't work out for them.
Now, something we discussed yesterday is that prior to the Virtus.Pro game, we saw some very stressed faces. Right now, if Virtus.Pro lose this game, they're out of that contention. I would imagine that this is probably also a very stressful game for them.
I think it is stressful, but it's maybe past the point of this is just the situation now. Yeah, and they probably accepted it. They definitely look, to be honest, a lot less stressed. You know, looking at the cams right now on the screens, they look a lot less stressed. I mean, even if they win today, it's still a very slim chance. I think, you know, that's the reality of the situation for them. So it might actually give them a freedom. You know, once things are said and done, you know, when we got relegated with Chaos, we came out and then we beat a really bad team.
Just accept it.
We beat Fabian. You just accept your fate and you just play your game. And it's surprising what happens when the pressure is off. And in a sense, we're almost at the situation for VP where the pressure is off.
Remember how we had a written request yesterday for the teams to please play Nighthaven because we really want to see it? We haven't seen it yet. And, you know, Leon said that they wanted to play Nighthaven yesterday. They're not playing it today. Virtus.Pro banned it out. We'll be heading to Chalet.
Never going to happen that we're going to see VP play Nighthaven. It's a permaban of that. So not going to happen in this game. Now, the thing that I like about the map bans here is how Fnatic have banned it out to leave Border or Chalet. Because Virtus.Pro have incorporated both maps into their map pool, but they're very recent additions and they're maps that Virtus.Pro don't really like traditionally. They're not maps where you're really setting up executes or playing into that VP style. That's much more Oregon, Cafe, you know, Clubhouse, those kind of maps. So Fnatic to get it onto a map where it's much more gunplay based and I suppose execute based, speed based is good for Fnatic to take it to Chalet.
Oh, definitely it is. I don't think that Chalet is also a map where Virtus.Pro playstyle can work because it's kind of easy to cut off parts of the map and just put up flank systems. So I don't think it's a bad map for Virtus.Pro. It's just a question of how comfortable will they be with a different approach.
Let's bring in our casters, of course, because the game is ready. We will be able to toss it to them. Today, I'll be joined by Hap and Fluke. And I have a question for you two, because maybe you heard Fabian Fresh say they're preying on these downfalls of these teams getting eliminated from top 6 today. You two feeling the same about that?
No, because I'm not a horrible, miserable person behind a desk.
Not in that way, I mean.
No, not in that way. I prefer other pains, but this isn't the one that I want to see. You want to see everything come together here for these teams. I just want them to give it their all. That's such a Tim answer, but that's sort of what you want right now, because there's nothing worse than losing, I think, when you're putting all of your time into it, regardless of how bad you've played. When you hit that line, and that's the last line, that's when everything leaves you.
Now we want to hear the truth, Hap. What do you guys really feel?
Elimination matches are always amazing because you're going to see the best of the teams and you're going to see all those emotions afterwards when they can't make it. So everything's on the line for these teams right now.
I'm glad we at least have some kind of positivity here, but of course we'll have our very first game of the day. It is Chalet between Fnatic and Virtus.Pro.
Thank you very much, and it is, and I'm curious to see if it's going to chill them out a little bit. Obviously, I think they put it pretty well on the desk, surprisingly. They are a yo-yo team. Fnatic, they've had some fantastic performances, some great players. You look at how Leon popped off yesterday, but then they've also had games where you're sort of head in hands going, what are you doing? We know you're better than this. You know you're better than this. At the same time, Virtus.Pro, we know you're better than this. We have the perfect example about 2 months ago, many thousands of miles away.
Apparently a lot can change in those couple of months. I mean, of course, like, you know, new operator comes out, some balance changes come through, but it's a pretty big fall from grace, you know? 3rd place to not even potentially being able to make it towards the playoffs of your regional league. And then back towards Fnatic, yo-yo team, yes, almost perfectly balanced. 2 regular wins against 2 regular losses, 1 overtime win against 1 overtime loss. And they have 37 rounds won and 34 lost, so almost in a complete equal state here. So let's see which way this night will flow.
I think the main thing that we're sort of looking for here is, as I said, you know, you can have a build-up of bad performances and good performances. You can have things go wrong, but it's truly in that do-or-die moment. We've seen it from this region. We've seen it from some of these teams where they've been at the top and then suddenly 2 games later, they're out of the tournament, they're out of the running, they're out of the situation. You know, you have people who have played on the biggest stages and taken some of the biggest accolades our game has to offer in this game. And the fact that you're sitting here going, this is a kind of elimination. One of these guys is going to be playing tier 2 teams potentially for the run for their chance at getting to the major. It's always that sort of tough moment.
It is, you know, you want to get there in the most efficient way. You don't want to have to go through the open qualifiers. That is just so much uncertainty you will be facing at that point. Just in general, there's not a lot known about these teams, especially with the, you know, the disappearance of the national leagues. There's not even those vaults you can really go over anymore. So it really comes down towards those basics and being able to play on the fly and adapt where it's necessary. That's why we often see these kind of, well, surprises to come through. I mean, we've seen it when G2 faced G-Who. That didn't really go well for G2. for example, and then with many of those games that happened in the last couple of months that basically show you that, you know, tier 3 teams going up against these tier 1 teams doesn't necessarily mean it's a clear-cut victory for the tier 1 team.
Well, there is no game where a tier 2 or a tier 3 player will play harder than when they're against a tier 1 team, especially one that's been bleeding recently. The start here, as Jigsaw looks for a little bit of a peek up towards Joystick, but he's not offering him the angle approaching from the opposite end. But it's Dan that actually gets the pickup on the swing back round all the way deep. I'm not sure if Jigsaw wanted to have an adventure into the bathroom window or just got caught on the rotate, but either way, a very early loss for a player who, okay, Fnatic had a brilliant day yesterday, but he wasn't quite getting the numbers he usually does. Dan doubles down. Takes care of Tyrant, and here, Virtus.Pro. 40 seconds gone, and a great step into Chalet.
Spotted a bomb.
A great start indeed into that first round, instantly trying to put down some pace. As it was mentioned before, even if they take the full victory here, chances are very slim that they would be able to make it to playoffs. So the gloves are off. There's no more pressure to some extent. That's a dangerous team to face against, especially when it's a team with so much experience as this one. And as the drones roll through and the positions are known, it's Fnatic that needs to hold on with 3. There's many choke points you need to be aware of. I mean, Ivy's one of them. The double windows and Stellarium is another pressure point you need to worry about. Think about the balcony as well. It's almost impossible for them to hold everything if a simultaneous execute comes out from all these angles.
At this point, Virtus.Pro, I mean, this really should be a round held in your hands. Too early pick, too early bodies, and you're looking at a map that does play itself well into the aggression. With everything already opened, Fnatic's trying to find a pocket of space and maybe a pinch on a player just to get them one back before they know the inevitable execute's going to find its way down. No hard breach. Means it's going to be more of a direct line, as you can sort of get the setup there. It's a pretty aggressive one on the right-hand side of your screen, but it's when push comes to pop the shove on the double window. Leon is the next body to fall. There goes Jags. And with Deepex, the only thing, to be fair, stopping a round loss, but also just a flawless loss. Scraped, scratched, shut down.
Nowhere he could go in the end there, and a very clinical round from Virtus.Pro to start off with. That flawless to come through. Almost not even taking a single bullet. I'm not even sure if they took a single bullet in the entire round out there. So very well done. Especially that double opening from Dan really allowed them to take it slow for the remainder of that round, get the information out, get yourself inside that building, and start isolating these players. Of course, no guarantee that every round will go like that. You will have Fnatic fighting back. You will have Fnatic able to put some extra kills on the board as well. But it's a perfect start for Virtus.Pro.
Couldn't ask for a better one. It was clinical. Again, the sort of rewarded 2 bodies so early as well. Yeah, it's an aggressive map. Chalet lends itself well to that sort of get in and sort of make a statement, as deep angles as proven by Dan, but also just early handouts, early freebies to be led and bled from. They've gone down to the basement. They're going to slow the gameplay down. In fact, not the basement. My apologies. It is down towards the bar.
So not too up to go there yet. And this one usually comes down to, you know, library pressure. You have that verticality. It's often quite important for the attackers to play with. However, sometimes we just see them completely negate that and, you know, go for different pressure points over the map. Basically forcing the top 4 players to fall back either way, as the side would be getting in the horizontal push and shove. But it seems for now, it is quite library-sided. Then heading over towards the balcony just to get the Twitch drone over the top. Start hunting for the default utility. It starts with the default cam. Normally it's a bulletproof on that wall that gets taken out. Jags will find the first though onto always. That's from the basement. Was droned out, or actually misdroned probably. He found himself at the early kill. It's a great return.
I mean, I'm going to assume it was a misdrone there. You can see it at the end, and your 8 entering all the way on the bottom. We've said there's been not quite the same consistency from always this split so far. A good performance against BDS, but it sort of needs that step back in. It's a regretful first body to lose. Joystick just sees the ears of the bunny headgear, but Jigsaw bounces away back towards the top of blue. and can hold off with the Solace gadget for anything that starts to drive its way forward. They've rested some vertical control around Deepak. They haven't quite got the manpower to go for the full pinch and extension. They have to try and minimize their focus and get control of, well, this. As you said, the top rafters, the top library needs to be in their pockets before they can even think about the site.
Whilst they might be putting up some vertical pressure over Deepak, he's not really under pressure. Right now, the Skeleton Key's coming quite close to him. Jags, however, looking through two different stories. Deepak digging himself in close towards Trophy as well. He's not receiving any horizontal pressure from the window. Swedish free reign to just rotate around. As the Bees confirmed to rotate around, Tyrant takes his shot, but he stays alive most importantly.
It's a tricky narrow rotate, but at this point you're thinking about the time wasted. Sure, they're getting themselves in. There's a player above the hatch, I think, just around the corner. Nope, they've taken the drop as well. They've vacated the space. It was Pasha that hopped in and got the control over there, but now 40 seconds, and they still have to put their focus down underneath. There's still a danger of rotation up behind them because of the presence of the players that they know were around Trophy. You can see the pings coming out. So Pasha, sure, he can lock it off with the air jab, but they need the kill cemented. They need some blood. And there is another drone that might have just rolled past Deepak.
I think it definitely has. Oh, the pre-fires are coming through. Deepak will go down. No damage done to our Pasha, but look at the time. There's 14 seconds left. There's almost no way he'll be able to make it to silent time. They just need to go for drops in the behind the bar, behind the jukebox, on the actual fireplace stairs. As soon as they start moving in, it's Jax ready to strike. And this is just going to wash up here for VP. Too much time wasted trying to find those flankers, not really working onto the side itself.
It was just a send it moment because they spent so much of that just trying to get a little bit of safety, a little semblance of it, and then a sniff of this player on the far end, the call to just get them out and come back round. I mean, with that little amount of time left, they knew the situation they were throwing themselves into. They didn't want to opt to ignore them. But either way, they're still having to send themselves into the site, right, against the players that are still there. Regardless of the fact that they confirmed that kill all the way back on Trophy, what was inside the site, the position at the top of Fireplace Stead, and what they had didn't really change other than getting a little bit of width over towards the kitchen side. So, I mean, it's just one of those decisions that goes away from them. Great response there from Fnatic. Great bit of time wasting and a good early kill onto the missed player of always.
I can't help but feel that at that point, right, when there's 30 seconds left, you spot a player all the way on the opposite side of the map. You just take it as a 4-on-4 onto the site.
But they had to take it as a 4-on-4 on the site anyway. That's the point that I was making.
Yeah. That's the thing. So you just waste a bunch of time. I mean, you get the kill, right? But it's like you now have so much, like, so little time to actually make something happen. And as soon as, like, you hit one road bump, you know the road's done, like, that round is done. So, oh well. They move, they learn. We head towards the next side as the basement is going to be avoided, at least for now. Kitchen dining is where we'll be headed. And again, top floor will be quite important here. Now, think of, for example, the fireplace wall. Often it is, you know, electrified, something like that. Not really going to be the case now. There is going to be mute gemmers, potential impact tricks that they could use. But you want to get that top floor control anyway, because that verticality is so powerful. Almost the entire site is covered by those floorboards, which you can just remove and look down to, making it so there's only, you know, very little power positions to play in. So that's going to be the goal for VP here.
Now, they also hinted at their takers by, again, the lack of hard breach and hard charge. They're not going to be going for that hefty wall across the back that otherwise requires the fireplace control. Instead, the quick pop around towards the trophy side where most of it is kept soft. It still means, as you said, winning out this verticality, that Tyrant wants to go a little bit of reverse fishing at the double window, but it's otherwise not been offered to him. Jigsaw, he's finding himself uncontested back here. As I said, it's not really the ground that they want, because without anything to get that wall open, you're sort of just sending yourself into a single door of death. But with Joystick going for the quick break, sprayed back against him by the player tucked round onto the side of the bathroom rotate. They're looking for a pinch, but otherwise Fnatic are slowly finding themselves a little bit encircled. There goes the revenge from the previous round. Dan gets the fleeing Jigsaw. Tyrant to find Pasha. But with Dan getting another to his name, a 2 versus 4, and a big sort of rest of vertical control.
That's the most important. They have those initial kills. They now have vertical control as well. They know Deepak's around in Trophy. as he's just been droned out and Tyrant earlier, finding some kills from there as well. So I think they have a pretty good idea on where both these players are, trying to put down some extra vertical pressure here. And whilst these two players on the top of Solarium are keeping them busy, we're going to see someone move into Trophy. Oh, actually, Deepak heard the repel, sneaking up, finds the kill into Joystick.
Tyrant's been able to get himself back towards the site. A big bit of motion that's come through from either of the two players, and always he's alone over here. He does not want to give them a 1 versus 1, especially with the confirmation of where both these players are. They're waiting to see if they can try and get this, the first pinch, which comes together. There was no way he was going to leave, and he knew the engagement would come from above him, so it's all just Tyrant. Here's the single ping. He does want a 1 versus 1, and he wins it out pretty cleanly. Now, he unfortunately can't get any closer back towards site. Cut off by the Virtus.Pro players, 2-1.
Again, good initial take coming down there, taking that verticality. You basically make it impossible to play around the site safely. After that, you take Solarium Stairs. It's just going to be a free, complete cut through the entire site. Again, blocking another 50% of where players can be. Thought the play of Deepak was smart, though. As soon as he heard player repelling out of the double window from Solarium, instantly rotating up, trying to see if he could find the remaining player that was on vertical. Just unable to really move anywhere from there. And as VP, they find themselves in that lead, 2-1. And a great opener, again, over those, over that top floor, just finding those 2 initial kills.
Swing round, but, I mean, the position already locked, waiting. Passion to Pasha, often cited and talked about. You scream that much when you play video games?
No. And I'm a pretty calm gamer.
You're a pretty calm gamer, but your teammates often aren't when playing with you.
I wonder why. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to find out a reason as why.
I don't think anyone will have video evidence of the reasons as to why.
There's no video evidence whatsoever.
Tim's heart rate monitor, through the roof. Gets up to the 200s.
Whenever he starts clutching, it actually goes down. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
He's cool. He's cool as ice. Leon is also put on ice. Shepard knew that they were playing another trick, and well, that's one way to counter that peak. Great angle. Dan watching the same way he got a victim last time, but Fnatic, that's twice across the rounds here where they've gone for something a little bit spicy out the window, but they have not been rewarded for it.
Very heavy on that side of the map there, as you see 2 people up rappel, 2 people down on the actual staircases or doorways. So I was looking for some verticality. Not going to find anything, so instead we'll use the electronic scanner to find out if there's any utility that needs to be destroyed. Again, it is a top floor. You don't really need to have that first floor under control. If you can get in there, I mean, a Buck will still be able to wreak some havoc, especially we'll find Tyrant. Not quite sure where that happened. Oh, that was down below on Trophy, so yep. I'll stop them from rotating back on. Jigsaw as well cannot really jump down either now.
There's a little demonstration of shooting small balls in the practice range. It allows you to shoot out small gadgets as soon as they pop. They get rid of the bees, but I mean, that's just a big giveaway. It means you don't have the direct ping. The flashes will be giving some of that. Pulls himself a step further back and tries to just get a pre-fire on the bait of an angle. Not otherwise offered to him. Deepak's here to offer as much support as possible, but look how small the space is getting that the Fnatic players can get themselves situated in. Jigsaw's trying to retake and straight into bees and fire. The Deepak getting locked down as well. Jags suddenly alone. The impact is pretty much impactless. They'll just find the call now that they're down below, get the plant onto the site. They're watching the hatch. The impact does some damage, but 2 for 2. Flawless bedroom takes from VP.
Probably we'll see that side being avoided for the remainder of this match right now.
Yeah.
Really clean. Again, the early openings just happening out there. I'm not quite sure if that is a spawn peek attempt or just mispositioning, and VP reading the situation perfectly, as we don't see those early engagements, but it is definitely a great start for them, which they then managed to snowball into the round eventually, showing you how dangerous it is to give them that opportunity.
Second one there onto Leon wasn't a peek. It was just punished positioning accidentally. Like the angle that they had up on the rocks, spraying through past Ivy to get the player behind when there is one closer to the window. I think that's one of those I died in your firefight, mate moments that has punished Leon there. He was still in a position, but you know, it's just one of those kills that happens in this hell game that we play and love so much. Where you get beamed through 3 softs and you're like, okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Skill issue from my side, you know.
Talking about skill issue, Fabian actually responded to you and say you do get shouty during specific strategy games.
I don't actually.
Well,
I mean, I get
I'm
very,
not gonna fuel the fire of the argument.
I get psychopathic. It's different.
Okay.
I don't scream. I start laughing manically.
That's worse. 3-1. Can it get much worse for Fnatic here? Virtus.Pro, good lead, good stead, but the yo-yo team can have yo-yo rounds, and from the down, you go back up. It's the theory that Fnatic try and hold on to here. They've got themselves still held a bit cautiously. They were able to get this secured last time, but remember how it built on, how time was that big pressure, and how it started with a very early, almost free, arguable engagement. They're not going to offer that to the Solace this time around. Jigsaw pulls themselves further and further back, and it seems like they're going to force the Fnatic players out of a position they otherwise had to try and fish for very late last time.
Stake back and forth, actually quite close to finding the very first engagement. I believe there's a spot coming through. Flashbangs will follow up as well. There goes the repel. Is Deepak going to respond, though? Doesn't seem to be the case, as he's still challenging a person on his own window at the same time. So as that multi-factor approach you need to see, his joystick will find Jigsaw to open things up.
Jigsaw has been unable to really get into the swing of things here on the defense. He's playing an operator you think that has so much power, and Solace does have so much use on this boxy design. Intel is the driving force of our game, sure, but on Chalet, it's Intel that can be buried in bushes and beams all across everything. It's a nightmare to play against drones, and the Solace getting caught out pretty much first every single round. It's really been something that has played obviously against them here. Virtus.Pro, though, they've been able to get a better pace to the last time they were here, but there's still a lot of work to do. The full claim of the vertical is about to take place here. The player behind the shield on blue is actually just going to vacate. For now, they are tucking themselves back in. Jegs is playing a very dangerous game.
Karen is actually right underneath the balcony window. He's hiding here, shows up, takes down Danny and no ID. And as he's trying to rotate out now, he doesn't really have a safe way except for down. So decides to take that, gets back towards the side. It's a good thing he didn't lean into that fight.
I mean,
he was ready for him.
A great gun for that sort of engagement as well, and Pasha was locked and ready to try and get some revenge. Dan being dropped with a little amount of time. We're having a problematic flashback to the attacks here last time. Flashes down towards the back of blue. They know there's a ping player. They're rotating to the kid towards the hatch, and they've got themselves on double window. But with prep and stock still solidified, Shepard's having to open the route through for the other players. Tyrant, he's trying to cause more problems. The impact and the blind come out. He cannot get the connection because joystick's retaken and traded out. Shepard's going to see if he can hold the stick with a single plant of cover now. For now, tucked on the half wall, they make the motion. They know they've got to lock it. They tried to play the time, but now time is against them. 40 seconds. And the pressure is on Fnatic. They've got to go for the doubled up retake here. They have the body advantage. If they can try and force the first engagement onto the vertical, if they can try and force the players out, that's what they're discussing now. Do we go for Mudroom? Do we go against the repel? Do we go for the hop out? We've still got the extra player. The first falls. The second falls too. There's the third! And against the odds, Virtus.Pro put them in their favor.
It's such a difficult site to retake as well. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, or you did, but like the floor is just on that rappel. You have like so much vertical space you can play with there. You can put yourself up on whatever height you want, so you can aim at headshot level all you want, but it's not going to be mattering, and they're always going to get the drop on you because of that early spotting mechanism that comes through as soon as you're outside. So they needed to be there. They needed to challenge the plant when it was happening. As soon as it went down and they were both allowed to exit the building and get back on rappel, that round was going to be over there. Like they needed to all go at the same time to the outside, and even that wasn't enough to find anything. Just look at it here. Shepard up top. Quick transition to the two of them.
Great play there. And there's a sort of set in the play-by-play. The idea there is there's about 4 windows that you can try and make those engagements out. 2 of them are above, obviously. 1 is the one they jumped in, obviously, and then the 4th just off to the side around Mudroom. That's what Fnatic were trying to discuss and try and get those engagements to happen. a little bit closer to the time. The double dip on an engagement is like, look, we have to play for the trades in this. It's too powerful, as you said. The repel position, you had one on the repel, one playing a bit further back as well, sort of hoping for the flat fight. That position he was in, down on the ground, means they're protected, at least generally from the runouts above. But unfortunately, things didn't quite connect the way that they'd hoped. Here, we go to the kitchen, 4-1 Fnatic. This is looking like a little bit of a breeze by here by VP.
Luckily, it's game 2 halves, so let's see if Fnatic can at least get themselves a second round on the board here. Let's give themselves that extra buffer for when they swap over towards the attack themselves. However, you know, the recent meta has been quite defense-oriented, so being behind on your defense like this, definitely not a great look. And again, when we start mentioning that, you know, that the number 3 in the world currently not going to be able to make it to playoffs, well, probably not going to be able to make it to playoffs, it's just all breaks are loose right now for Virtus.Pro.
I mean, that's the sort of setup, right? You're looking at the 2 games Virtus.Pro have left. It is against Fnatic, who's a couple of positions ahead of them, and then it's against Wild, the only team that is currently below them on the head-to-head. If they can get the full 3 points here, they set themselves up for a position to try and just swing their way back in. If the results have to come together, sure. If it gets to OT, I think Anne has a fun statistic that they talked about on the desk a little bit. I think it's a 0.01% chance of making it if it goes to OT and they win it Virtus.Pro. There's still a chance.
We've seen a G2 4% comeback happen.
We have.
Bring the VP 0.001% to come through. Leona's in a bit of a difficult position here. Cannot really step to the side too much, or he gets taken down. The concussions come through from the window, completely blinded as they start pushing him, but Turn will find the first kill.
I mean, they sort of lent in there to offer some support. I think just to sort of make a statement of you cannot enter right now, and always try to do it in the back of the site. Joystick and Shepard do find one apiece. Pasha not quite able to get a reward on the run out there, but neither is the run out. So a 3 against 3, 30 seconds. Joystick's trying to just steadily take little pockets of the vertical control. Jags, he's going to see if he can have a bit more of an impact this round as well. He's gotten an important kill before, but if the drone catches him out, can he try and get one more for the journey? Yes. A little bit of a drop back, a bit of a surprise engagement. Joystick threw himself into it, and now with 10 seconds, and well, 2 players trying to find their way through and no vertical control, this is probably going to go away from them. They're still not entirely sure where the bullets are coming from. They're tucked onto one side. Pasha does get deep. They're going for the plant, but there it is. The vertical importance proven by a point.
Vitality, indeed, coming clutch there in the end. If they would have been able to clear out Jags, it would have been an opportunity to take that round home. But now Fnatic, they find themselves with their second round on the board. Again, it's not ideal. You preferred if it would have been the other way around with how the meta is currently shaping up, you know, having those 4 rounds in defense.
I think regardless of whether the meta was shaping up, I think you prefer to be winning up.
I mean, we've had games, right? And maps, especially when Cafe just was reworked. We have games where like 5-1, 6-0.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone ever prefers to be losing, right?
No, but then if you have 1 or 2 rounds, you're like, okay, we're in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah.
It's like we're not really losing.
You know,
so I'm just saying, like, it's a bit of a better spot that they
it's
are.
what you say to yourself. Like, you know, we'll pull this back.
I do really wonder sometimes, like, what is the mindset? Do you look at the bigger picture? Do you look at this round by round? I think it's different for every player,
It's different for every single player, and I can give the example based on the players that have come into talent work after successful careers. If you talk to both Fabian or Pengu, you'll get A, wildly different answers, but B, also the understanding. I think both are insane. So who knows what they prefer? Anyway, we didn't have basement last time round, and here seems like it's going to be a bit of a first step.
Top 4 needs to fall first, though. It's going to be a complete top-down approach. At least that's what it looks like for Fnatic right now. Always the first one to be droned out. Pings are starting to come through. They are aware. Here comes the track as well as Leon will find Joystick. Now the Deimos onto the Legion of Always. He's going to try and run off as far and as quickly as he can. Whoa. But Jax from the actual tower through the big window finds himself with a kill on the support that was there for Always. And he's still looking through, and they still should be aware of where Always is.
I mean, Always wants this engagement back. He was close to finding it. It only takes a bullet to a head to end, regardless of the distance, the range, and the gun capacity. And that's what he was trying to bait and hope on there. Now, as he's tracked, haunted, and hunted by the Dockerby calls as well, how long is he going to see if he can try and stick in this territory? Again, all those marks, all that Deimos precious being read to them. He didn't hand away the territory, but the territory is slowly being stolen from an impact below. Swings around either side. He did well to get 20 seconds out of it, but he wasn't going to get anything more than that.
It's a reverse kind of situation now. This is exactly where Fnatic found themselves on their first round when they were playing. That was a different side, albeit, but went the same way. Roamers cleared out pretty quickly in these opening engagements in the opening minute, and finding yourself just in a 2v5 cleanup. All they really need to do is get themselves the information out, try and isolate one of these players, use the utility you still have remaining to lock it off. And boom, it's a 1v5 at that point.
I mean, a minute to get it all done is such a long amount of time here, and you're steadily losing any control of the space you had. The Ram removes 80% of safe ground on this sort of site, and all the places that you would be trying to hold, connectors open, they can probably plant trash generally free at this point. Shepard might be able to get a smoke out onto the engagement. There's some fire that's popped from old expired Goyos, but with 30 seconds, Dan does get Tyrant, which is at least something to put themselves back on. Fnatic really should be able to get this execute cemented. There's the pressure onto connector, there's the pressure down onto blue, there's the plant on towards the bottom of fireplace stairs. Just tucked on the far end, the smoke canister will do some damage, but too little too late. Fnatic, pretty solid lockout there.
Again, basically the reverse of what we've seen as soon as it was, you know, Virtus.Pro attacking in that first round. It's just a kill of difference that we see in this one. But very clean. I like that top clear that we saw. Just the long angle over the top through the big window, basically stopping to rotate through Solarium. There's no way they were going to be able to do that. Library under instant pressure. People playing onto the balcony as well, making sure that you can be jumping down on fireplace either. It's just a very clean lock that we saw very early on.
That was a beautiful attack. I think they had so much control. They knew exactly where they wanted to get themselves in, and they led themselves with, I'm going to say, one of the most perfect lineups for the job that they wanted to do. The doubling up of the Deimos and the Dockerby to hunt down positional roam players, it's just a nightmare to try and play against. They are potentially opting for something different. They did originally have the same pairing, but seems like they maybe expected a different site. The swap potential here below. The clash of Always. Let's see where they try and position themselves and how much attention they think they can bring.
Yeah, so we're repeating this side. It's not something we see very often in the top tiers of competitive. Usually they just continue with the rotation. But that's why I want to see a completely different kind of take right now. If they again go for 3 roamers, that's just not going to be working out. You saw how quickly that was dispatched the last time round. And instantly the pressure coming around onto West Main right now. There's actually a player waiting onto the staircase joystick, hoping for any jump in. I'm not sure if that drone actually saw him as it just raced through on the balustrade out there. He's falling back towards the side. He's not going to take a gamble out there, and for the right reason, so because Tyrant just opening up as he moved away.
I mean, this confident Tyrant play, he was a player when he sort of got into this roster where we know what he's capable of and we know what he can bring, and he hasn't quite been able to have the same level of success some of his ex-teammates did when they found themselves into new rosters, but there's always a chance to grow in time and meld things together. Always going to be propped up and positioned around the top blue for now. They're going to hope that the breach itself will be held onto it. It gets them a very solid line on anyone that might want to try and swing 2 long, narrow corridors. Let's be honest, paying attention towards an operator who, well, if you waste 30 seconds, they only had 30 seconds left last time. Here, They've got to still do the work on towards the site, but Virtus.Pro did not play the roam game this time, pulled entirely back to site.
A lot of verticality going on though. Openings to be made into the ball as well. I think that Nitro might have missed. So there's indeed going to be a double vault hole to go through. It's not going to be the walk hole, so at least there will still be some time wasted. You see the Clash instantly moving into position as they feel that will be the main point of entry where the diffuser will come through. And always in a perfect position actually to call out for his team here. Tyrant, the only one that can really be seen from that position, but how are you going to deal with that Clash? If you look at the utility, there's nothing really that they have. No grenades, just flashbangs that they can try and use to, well, basically blind him, but you're not there with that yet. You still need to be able to get an angle on that Clash.
That's what they're hoping for, but the Clash can play this smart. As I said, you know, the Ram being able to destroy about 80% of the soft, there's still the pressure elsewhere. The call, the ping, tucked onto the close players. Going for the pistol, but it's not quite quick enough. Pasha doesn't really care about the death mark, but it's the follow around, and Deepek gets the back of one player, allows this space to be opened. The Clash is caught as well, back to the wrong place. Focused on a different engagement. Deepek going for 3. But it's Shepard holding on for dear life. 20 seconds, more engagements inside the site, and suddenly Fnatic scream their way into wine.
Deepek with the quad kill in the end there, moving through, firing through the smoke. They just had to go. They had no other choice. They were out of time. They had to be aggressive to find a way to deal with that Clash, and exactly that is what they did. And suddenly, I mentioned it before, right? It's like that extra round could be decisive in the end on whether or not they will find themselves in that right position, in the driver's seat of that game. And boom, look at it, 4-4. They've equalized the score. And although that last round it looked a bit more dicey than that first, they still managed to explode all over the side and find themselves with the advantages. So it's kind of like the backup option, right? If the strategy fails, not that the strategy failed, by the way, but I mean they didn't quite get what they wanted with
failed.
No, that's not what I'm saying. They didn't quite get what they wanted with the early part of that round. And they didn't have a way to deal with that Clash, so they had to, well, adapt a little bit, and that's the aggression they brought here. Spotted the opportunity with the Clash being too far forward, and instantly exploding onto the side afterwards.
I mean, you are a bit curious what the comms there were from the side of Virtus.Pro. They got the lead-in kill. They took out the Deimos that was coming down blue, and suddenly you see a lot of backs being turned elsewhere. Jigsaw, he wants to see if he can get a quick bout of punishment onto any player that might be drifting their way around the kitchen and trophy. He's got to fight to his right-hand side. The C4 was pre-thrown and placed in the hope to get the bait onto the kill, but otherwise, they just don't want the smoke.
Early spot is coming through. As of course we are on a first floor site, this is in that kind of awkward position where you need to have that top floor under control, but you also want to have the horizontal area. You want to have that kitchen under lock and key as well, and that's where currently 2 of the players from Fnatic are located. It's actually Jigsaw going up towards the top with that Amaru. It's not going to be trying to go through the staircase whatsoever. Actually bypasses the camera like that. He's now on the hunt for the players that could be around the library area. But are they aware of his position? He's scouting everything. They've actually made a slight hole for him. They take that, fire some bullets, know exactly where he is now, though. So they're going to be aware that someone is hunting them over the top.
At this point, though, they're not giving them anything. They're not giving them this early engagement or the early fight. They're going to see if they can try and put the pressure here. It's an important wall to get open, and unfortunately, it's an opening that won't happen yet. The call of the util, the block by the mute jammer, means that the stock wall will stay solid. With Leon being able to move into the wake of the ground that was opened up, Jigsaw still needs to try and force a first engagement because, you know, we've talked about how the rest of this map matters towards this site. And yeah, it's good to have the lockdown and the control on it, but the vertical is the defining factor, the feature that needs to be forced and played out. And as Jigsaw's going to try and eke into this first engagement, there's still seemingly the controller top blue, the lack of pressure, Leon trying to draw the fight on towards the back of the stock wall itself, hoping the player decides to go for the engagement, just hops in and out as Deepek and Pasha find each other.
One-on-one trades, Jigsaw still over the top, spots out a player, but a single pops up from the library, small. Joystick finds Jigsaw, and he's into the instant challenge again on the player that's out on the balcony. Tyron will drop down. Jegs now finds himself in a curious position as well as he's on the staircase. Fire is going through. They need to isolate these players on the side. 30 seconds left, and they don't have verticality, Yami.
I mean, Tyron is massively wounded, always doesn't have to get a huge amount of connection here. They'll see a lot of this fight before it comes through. An easy pickup freebie, the second followed round the route, and well, now a 2 versus 1. Leon, he made it all happen in the game yesterday. He's trying to see if he can make something else happen on the end of this round. Might be a little bit too little, too late. Just the stretch angle gets the connection from Joystick. Virtus.Pro, they stop the flow of bleeding and pull themselves back into the lead.
Be a sigh of relief after those first 2 rounds. And they just need to continue that. A tactical timeout will be called from Fnatic. Last 2 rounds weren't as clean as they wanted to. Of course, they managed to win the previous round, not the one we just played, the one before that, by the explosion that happened. This one, however, they just struggled, didn't have the right information, I guess, because, you know, when you take the fight over blue, but you don't know there's still a player active inside the library, and that swings you, that's just gonna hurt, because it just doesn't feel like a fair fight at that point. So they just gotta clean some things up here. They gotta clean up the comms. They gotta make sure they have all the information when they make these pushes.
It's worth sort of bringing into light as well Joystick and how he's been playing this game and been playing this map. He came into this as statistically the lowest rated player of his team. He hasn't had a brilliant sort of split for how brilliant we know the player can be. And yeah, over time, over the years, his role within this roster has changed. He's been sort of moved around. There's younger blood, younger gunners. That changed all the way back in the days of Dan, sort of reintroducing and shaking things up. But here, he keeps finding himself being able to step into these engagements. There's a bit of confidence from Joystick's game today that we haven't really seen as much recently. And it's sort of that resurgence of the conversation we had at the very beginning of this. When you were this close to the end of both your run towards the playoff spot and the games that you have left, when do you start to dig deep and find that little bit extra? This could be that time for Joystick.
Now as good a time as ever. As they get themselves ready once more after that timeout. This is a important round for Fnatic, as of course they are right in the midst of that fight for making it towards that playoffs. They could technically still go out. If they manage to get themselves a full 3 points here, that's going to be complicating things, and I think that might actually confirm, yeah, that should confirm them. So that's what they're aiming for. Whereas Virtus.Pro, again, they're fighting for that very slim chance of maybe making it towards the playoffs, which again puts them at no pressure whatsoever.
I think if Fnatic just get into OT, they do a very good job at confirming themselves. They get to that 10-point line that was referenced and talked about. It doesn't entirely confirm them a loss, but a win might, just from the limitations it can put them down. However, that's for you and Fresh to work out. I'm like Fabian, I can't read numbers.
I mean, a win puts them 4 points away from G2, who only have 1 more game. And then Virtus.Pro would, you know, be on maximum 7, and Wild, they will be on maximum 10. So that should qualify them. Like, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't qualify with a regulation win.
A regulation win 100% qualifies Fnatic.
Yes.
I'm talking about an overtime loss. I think even an overtime win gets Fnatic locked in. Maybe.
An overtime loss would put them within 2 points range for G2. So, and they play BDS next, so they could technically be knocked out.
Quite done. Thank you, stats man.
No worries.
No worries.
No worries.
Oh no. What have you done? Now, with 1:30 and actually not a lot that's happened, I start talking though and things start to happen. Maybe I'm the problem. It was a little bit of a weird quiet as a lead into how these rounds have gone. Both from Virtus.Pro on their attacks, they were finding engagements quite early, and Fnatic were doing the same. Maybe that was the idea of the team talk. It's rewarded with Dan. But what else can they get on the back of this? Obviously, time became a little bit of a problem of the essence, and maybe they're just trying to see if they can force these engagements into their hands before they need Deepex to pop off and get another 4K to save the round.
Always pushing aggressively over the top. There's an Ashe there in the corner. Did not, no, actually, Dokkaebi in the corner there. Leon will find that kill. Pasha jumps up. Actually spotted a player potentially out there through the window. He's just one of 2 remaining, though. He has that verticality, but the 5-on-2 is not looking strong. He's about to be swung as well from Ivy. Shut down. Only Shepard left now. And again, this was a very important round for Fnatic, and they have a very clean cleanup coming through here. Virtus.Pro just being knocked around the map and not really being able to give and take any control whatsoever.
It's the perfect response to their timeout at this point. Obviously, they're able to sort of talk about where they think things are going wrong and piece it together. It was a much more cautious approach. They went back to almost that first round of trying to isolate engagements. It felt a lot more, I'm not going to say specific, but definitely driven. They were going, okay, let us get this player next. Okay, let us go here. Rather than if you look at the round before, when you have Jigsaw full sending it up, looking for a fight, not finding it, going down, goes back up. Leon rotating around into kitchen. No, Leon's now at double window. There was a lot of fishing for engagements. Here it was like, we're not just gonna fish, let's drain the bloody lake.
Attackers have discovered
5 to
the location
5.
of a bomb.
A great response after the tactical timeout. It was just a lot more clean. And that was what I was wanting to see, right? You just want to see those clean rounds, have the information work your way, catch up these rotates as they happened. And that's what they were doing. Isolating those players.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
1 more round for a point. 2 more for the full 3. 2 more for qualification to the playoffs, so you can avoid the hellish landscape of the open qualifiers.
Virtus.Pro, if this round goes away from you, your best chance becomes 0.01% of escaping having to play through open quals. They're going to see if they can try and lead it on. Every single engagement at this point matters for them. The lead onto the first, when it can be offered towards their opponents or not. Jigsaw's trying to find it. The library repel, but always just getting some clarity of information. He hates that song. Instead needs to listen to that. The steady destruction as the Ram makes quick work of the boards. They're sort of weighing up where they want to go for this shutdown. This is a breach that they actually haven't opened that we've seen throughout their engagements so far. It might have been done on the very first, but it definitely wasn't on the second.
Extra pressure now coming through. That's what they'll be using it for. Even if the push isn't coming from that direction, it is now an opportunity, an option that they need to think of. Why is there 4 people from Virtus.Pro around Blue Hallway? That's just what I was wondering there for a second. Just all of them chilling around in blue. I mean, it is the connection between the 2 sides. Don't get me wrong. Maybe everything else just became unplayable because of the Ram.
She does do that.
It is very concentrated.
Ram
just one angle, you can cover 3 people.
Yeah, Ram ruins Wine, as you can sort of see, and then the breach being open makes the boat room much tougher to hold on to. But you still have some semblance of safety. They play on the barbs, hoping nobody swings the back end of the pillar. It hasn't quite coming out against them. There's been lost fights in this very position before, but with Shepard getting the first onto Tyrant, Leon's hoping he'll be rewarded soon for patience. But with the call going out and a different player now on the engagement watch, they're trying to force a fight that's not coming. It's doubled up to support. Pasha gets one. Jigsaw gets the cross, but Pasha doubles down. A trade Virtus.Pro will be very happy with.
They come out on top, and nonetheless, there's 40 seconds left for a 2v4, and all they really have is a hatch that open up, and maybe the fireplace there is leading down into the site. They have an idea where one of the verticalities might be. Shotgun being used, actually spotting the player running away, not able to find a connection out there. So Deepak will go for an aggressive drop, but he has nowhere to plant. There was actually a player right behind the cabinet there. Joystick is able to stay alive in the first engagement, not in the second though, as it turns into a 2-on-2.
I think there's a rotate coming up behind them on the top. There it is, Pasha. He's found his way behind the 2 remaining players, and if he can just get this single kill, they seem to know where he's coming from though. The flashes are well prepped. Fnatic, they've dug their heels in, cannot get the engagement. A huge pullback from the 2 remaining orange players, and that sends Virtus.Pro into a bit of a tailspin. They are staring down the barrel of open playoffs.
That round seemed to have been going so well for Virtus.Pro. A 4-on-2, only the 1 hatch and the staircase they had to worry about. but it all went the other way. Both those gunfights going towards Fnatic. And I mean, great, you had a rotation, you had a flank going on at that time, but it was probably at the most ill timing ever, considering you just lost your entire team at the moment you hit the staircase. And that hurts. And Fnatic now find themselves on their map point. They find themselves with a point, first of all. That puts them into a slightly better position to make it out towards the playoffs.
Attackers are
They're now 2 removed from G2, who is the closest and will be the closest team to that extent. If they manage to find one more, again, they are confirmed for playoffs.
A huge round that will probably haunt them regardless of how the rest of this game ends. The setup and advantage that they had, and single bodies being removed piece by piece. We've seen a similar round that was played against them earlier this very game. They've suffered the same fate. Unfortunately, theirs spells a worse potential story. Energized though, Fnatic. They want the full 3 points. They want to get themselves into a sturdier and more solid position, confirm it all. Have a little bit of a breath before you find yourself back into the gauntlet of playing for one of the coveted spots at Manchester.
Scanning for electronic devices.
Activating stealth sequence.
No timeout call from VP. Just continuing on. Decided that they got really close, didn't need it. Now Bar coming up next, opening again to come through for the snowmobile side. And of course, this could lead into, you know, going up the fireplace stairs, opening up into the stock/pantry room with a bit of heart breach there as well. Suddenly, that entire area becomes unplayable. Makes it a lot easier to actually go for the plant into the A-bomb site.
Virtus.Pro are holding themselves locked in. This was the site where they were able to get their defense win so far. And obviously, Fnatic were only able to get 2 of their own. It's more than doable. The damage is the fact of where we're at. Jags was trying to bait for the fight there. He was hoping they would lean in and try and shoot the canisters as they did last time. It seems like they're at least a little bit more aware of it and want to play as safe as possible. They're also a bit curious where this opening engagement's going to be attempted. Last time it was, as I said, pick up and send it in. Since then, Fnatic have seemingly been a little bit more engaged with individual targets, but curiosity is turning to concern as this goes further and further away. In the meantime, Fnatic, they're sort of trying to concernedly find a first fight.
Someone needs to make a play here. There needs to be that first engagement for Fnatic if they want to win this. It's a 5-on-5 with 45 seconds left. As always, we'll find the very first. They know about a second player onto the actual balcony out there, but Pasha will be able to strike onto Tyrant, and that means that now we are headed into the wrong direction for the side of Fnatic. It will go towards overtime as it's only up to Jigsaw now in a 1-on-4 situation. 30 seconds left. What can he do? I think he's just going to try and see if he can get close towards the side, maybe sneak off with at least some kills. And as he will find it first, the diffuser is down on the complete opposite side of the map as well. So eliminations is going to be the only way to win this.
They're playing the reverse of their own shield. I'm not even sure if the camera's still up, but I don't think they needed it. The worst possible result, I think, for both teams is now we are in to part points. As I said, if they get 2, there is still the vaguest chance for Virtus.Pro to get themselves into the playoffs and avoid the last chance. However, Fnatic, they're still setting themselves up for a much better place, a much better performance here. They still want 2. But again, if we talk regret rounds, there's one.
That just completely went away from them there. Like they were waiting for so long, they couldn't get one of those players out of their position. And then there's 40 seconds left in a 5-on-5. You're just gonna have to make some moves, and they all fell away from you there. And, you know, where you had the snowmobile take and a wine cellar take in one of those rounds where, you know, it was again 5-on-5. You exploded onto the site. That one worked out for you. This one went away.
Now, Fnatic how do we try and improve on the half that everybody struggled with?
5
You
seconds
have
left.
the opt-in lead on defense, and statistically, that's not really benefiting you at this point. You need to see if you can try and find the distance here, because, well, assume the next round you're going to be attacking the only site that you've lost. But how many lessons can be learned? 3 times the fool. Dan trying to be rewarded. We remember how the kills happened this time last time, and he almost gets a scrape on a crouched player, but not quite.
Fence hasn't really been the friend of either of these two teams.
Camera ready.
Let's see if we will see a change in pace. Of course, it's been a while since we've swapped those rounds, swapped those sides.
Attackers drop the diffuser.
As the drones come through, again, like we started off with some very clean round from Virtus.Pro, the flawless to go up. Of course, wasn't this same site, was one up above.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
But for now, they're just, you know, sending out some utility, trying to gain some information, hoping that they can relocate one of these defenders, see if they can catch them off guard as they rotate into a secondary spot.
Like I said, Intel, very early on in the game, this is a nightmare map for it. You get the expert idea of where those Valkyrie cams are buried in every single plant pot and roof beam that there is. Always expect you're being watched, and always trust that your IQ can try and get the shutdown on what is entirely concerned. They're putting the pressure here on towards the vertical, the catch towards the player, and the C4 gets nobody. The run out of Tyrant doesn't net a reward either. This is all time that's being pulled away from VP's attack, VP's execute. Fnatic learned that we cannot quite give them these bodies. They're more than happy to, you know, spend a lot of time going for the 2 versus 3 versus 1. But here, if they can't even find that weak point, what do they try and pull at?
I think this is just going to be a 3-man hop-in from the trophy side of things. They know where Deepak is. They have that drone. They know he wasn't watching the actual entry at the moment they went forward, and now they're planting in the middle of the site, and there's no one there to do anything about it, Emmy.
As the attempt and the retake, the shotgun, he's round the other side of the kit itself. Leon can't get the connection. What a swindle this has been at the site itself. The kitchen is so dangerous. And now you got to try and make retakes against windows that are otherwise being watched. The utility that's still in the pockets of the players to be popped finds at least the pop onto one. Joystick on the Grim. He's doing his best to buy as much attention as possible. Shepard sees the knee of the player. They're on the kit, though. They're going for the defuse. They have to win this engagement, but the player on the stairs doesn't need to take it. The cover is there. Too far away, Virtus.Pro, and those important 1 versus 1s are lost.
It was a great plant, though, because they had the camera on Deepak. They could basically tell the team, okay, this is the only guy in sight, right? Like, the rest is all up on top. As soon as he's watching the opposite side, that's when the hop-in happened. He wasn't watching it. Boom. There you go. Inside. Go for that plant. 45 seconds now counting down. However, due to the fact that they had no control, they could not hold on to that diffuser. That was, you know, that second most important step that they needed to go for. And now Fnatic, they find themselves at a map point once more. However, this time it's just for the 1 additional point rather than the full 3 that they were hoping to get, first of all.
How do they try and crack this site that has caused them so much headache? Obviously, it's the only one that Virtus.Pro have been able to lock down in their defense. They're probably sitting pretty confident and comfortable that they can take this all the way as our opening game to max OT. But again, it's also that other side of it, is the more you try something, the more you stress something, the more you can learn. Fnatic, they've had 2 big attempts. I'm gonna say both as successful as each other. Yeah, we had a lot more time left on the second with the single Australian trying to get as many dead people as possible. But what they could not find on their last time here was enough to drive them towards a sort of tack timeout where they've generally reinvigorated their play style. Oh, there's a reward.
And that's a great opener. Finding always this early on. It's the Legion gone first and foremost. Going to stop any regeneration of the goo mines, but more importantly, you take out one of those chains into the, you know, the chain link. And with that, you have the opportunity to just break it all apart now. If you manage to find where the opening's been made, you see that there's no traps underneath that window. A jump in It's not going to be covered by any utility. It's just going to be players that will have to be on the other side of it to shut you down. And thus the plant might be on soon. There's still someone inside of the pantry though, and that's where Deepak is going to use his incendiary bolt for to try and dislocate that player.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
He's taking a diffuser,
Just juggling it.
just juggling it between himself and Jags. They know where Shepard is, or at least they should know where Shepard is, as Leon will take down Pasha. That's yet another opening that they'll be very grateful for.
Body after body in that space. VP can play, gets smaller and smaller. Took a bit of a risk to run into the first fight. Tries to find the risk onto the second. They're just going to not give it to them because they now know the player might have pulled themselves away from the chance of stopping this plant. The kit itself, they're going for the take onto the vertical. Shepard is that back line, doing his best to hold on, but Deepak gets Dan. And that is that looser thread counted for. Joystick and Shepard, two players that have been in huge clutch out situations before, two players that have done this dance many times, two players with immense talent, but unfortunately Joystick can't quite find a single pocket of space. A minute, it gets smaller and smaller, leaving just Shepard keeping the dream alive of getting themselves in towards the playoffs and getting at least the 2 points from this fight. No matter how low the chance is, it's a never give up and surrender moment. Fnatic 4 versus 1. Circle and surround, a problem that stumped them at least twice before a third time. Looking the best to be the charm as everything burns, everything gets shut down. Deepak gets the end of it, and Fnatic take a needed win and 2 points to set themselves so close to locking in playoffs.
A good game coming down from Fnatic, and you know, of course, maybe they could have won 1 or 2 rounds inside of regulation and picked up those full 3, but most importantly, they have that victory under their belts. They have another 2 points that will be counted towards them, and that means they are now going to be 3 removed from the side of G2 Esports, which is, of course, in that last position that is just not inside of those playoffs. So a very important game here for Fnatic.
Well, we'll throw it to the desk to see what they think about it.
An overtime win for Fnatic with some very important points. Not 100% yet confirming them in for those playoffs, but unfortunately for Virtus.Pro, they are out of contention for that. Our very first team that will be confirmed to go into open qualifier playoffs.
I'm not so surprised with how they've been playing this stage. They just not look great. I mean, we had again another round today, or even 2 rounds. The post plan in the overtime attack was super, super poor.
Yeah.
And we're seeing these things come back and haunting them, because if we look at it, they probably should have won this game 7-5 and had those 3 points.
Yeah,
now they don't.
The reality of it is that it's another competitive performance from Virtus.Pro,
Yeah.
but it's more points dropped, and that condemns them to the open qualifier playoffs, unfortunately. They started out so well as well. I think, you know, if we talk, it really was a game of 2 halves to send us to overtime. If we talk specifically about the first half, I think I was a little bit bewildered personally by Fnatic's site choice. Going on to Master, going on to Dining, when Virtus.Pro were executing solo takes so well, getting those entries so well, set themselves up on a 4-2 split. They really should have kicked on from me, Virtus.Pro, from that 4-2 split.
They should have. And what attacks do Virtus.Pro do always? It's literally only solo. They've been doing that since they started playing
Every
the map.
side they're going to start that.
Yeah, no matter what. So if you go into the basement, for example, instead, you're going to waste all that time for them. But yeah, we need to talk positively, though, about Fnatic, because they played really well. Being able to come back from that deficit, it's very impressive that they have that mental game. When you're a young team, which they are, not in terms of maybe the players' experiences, but as a group, they're very young. Managing to come back when you're that far down in such an important game for them is super good signs, especially when you're able to keep the cool and the calm to, for example, clutch.
There was absolutely pressure on it as well. Yeah, that's what you're saying, is like the ability to come down from a 2-4, the ability to win a 2 versus 4, and we'll come on to that, was exceptional from them because the pressure was on Fnatic. We said for VP, it's a very slim chance they make playoffs regardless, right? Whether they get a 3-point win or whether they lose. Obviously, they are now confirmed out. For Fnatic, it was a big differential whether they won this game or lost this game as to their chances. They would have still been in. But yeah, so there was a lot of pressure on them, and that comeback, I think, makes it a little bit even more impressive. The fact that they've been able to come back from being 4-2 down.
Yeah, they had some rough numbers in Fnatic, though. Like, if we're looking at the scoreboard of things, Virtus.Pro were in ahead in this game, and they probably should have been able to close it out. But it shows strong character from Fnatic to close it.
It's a part of momentum, I guess, as well, right? Of course, we had that start coming in for Fnatic not being the greatest. Some players not really having a bright time, all on the breadstick for a majority of the first half. And then their attacks were looking a lot better on the side of Fnatic. And I think that 2v4, as you guys mentioned as well, that was a huge shift in momentum and a round-winning or game-winning moment, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got the clip to bring up as well of that 2v4. It was a big shift because this is round 11, right? So whoever wins this round is going to secure themselves a point and the chance to compete for free. Obviously, it went to overtime. Fnatic winning out of 2v4, the composure of these players, you know, they got the round wrong strategically. Enough composure to pick and slice and dice up the site from that 2v4, take 1v1s, and then this was what was impressive. The late round, getting the plant position into the correct plant spot and the cover, secured them a point, probably secured them playoffs.
It sure did, and it's such a good play to see from them. However, from Virtus.Pro, I have to ask questions there. How, with all your basic knowledge of the game, do you lose a 4 versus 2 in such an important round? They really shouldn't have if they had played that correctly.
Yeah.
They played zero trade game, they took individual gunfights, and that's the stuff we don't know from them and we don't expect it from them. But today it was there.
Let's have a look at the standings again to see how this has been shaping up, because we know now, unfortunately, for Virtus.Pro, they are locked out of those playoffs. They have to focus on the open qualifier playoffs if they still want to make it through that major in Manchester. For Fnatic, this is looking really good. They've got those 11 points just above the threshold that you two were mentioning to at least make it into that. It's not 100% confirmed, but results later today might change that for them.
Yeah, it's not far away, let's be honest. I think unofficially, we said the threshold was around 10 points. Obviously, we're not statisticians from that point of view. I'm not. You're certainly not, Fabian.
I am.
You are. Okay, fine. So, yeah, we're assuming around about 10 points will keep teams safe and in the playoffs. And obviously, Fnatic have eclipsed that. And Virtus.Pro can get a maximum of 8 points now, which obviously Ents are already on 9 in 6th place. So, VP are knocked out.
You know, I can give you the exact numbers for how big of a chance it is. It's 50-50. Either they qualify or they don't.
That used to be a thing all the time. We either win or we lose.
It's literally that.
Oh, no, okay.
Wow. That's made it really simple. I'm not good at math, but I understood that.
Yeah,
so that's
either you go through or you don't.
Great. Awesome. Well, we have a player highlight as well, of course, from Fnatic, a player that really stepped up today.
Yeah, Deepet was great today. I think he was pretty instrumental in that 2 versus 4 clutch as well. You know, we said that 2 versus 4 clutch was the one that got the round over the line in round 11. He got kills in that 2v4 clutch. He got the plant down. And he often goes as an unsung hero, and I think, to be honest, for him personally, he's probably had quite a quiet 15 months or so, maybe even a couple of years now, since obviously being the star of that MVP in Berlin. But yeah, a great performance from Deepek today, and this is more of what we want to see out of the experienced players in this Fnatic call.
I also think we all know at this point a Fnatic win means that we get to speak to Leon. We'll have him on the line again for an interview to ask him a few questions. Good evening.
Hey.
Good evening.
Pretty
much smell that top 6 from here, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously, like you said, like it's nearly confirmed, but not 100%. So we're just gonna keep, trying to win for next week.
Leon, first of all, I want to congratulate you guys for having 2 games in a row that look very good. You guys played a really good game. You should be proud of yourself for that.
Thank you.
Second of all, the map that you got to. You guys had 2 choices between, well, you didn't have them, but you got into the choice of Border and Chalet. That must have been the 2 maps you guys wanted, right?
Honestly, like Chalet was not. We actually kind of thought they'd ban Chalet against us because we've had kind of decent showings and scrims on it. Border was the map that I was fully rooting for today, but Chalet was definitely a good choice for us.
It doesn't always play out the way you want to. The Brava ban, that's where I want to ask the next question. I mean, I understand it, but can you explain it deeper to the viewers? Because that's pretty uncommon of an operator to get rid of.
Yeah, basically we just seen that they like to just bring a lot of drones, like they bring like Flores, Twitch, Brava, and we just decided, you know what, we're just going to ban Brava, get down the way. It makes it harder for them to drone and just take their time, which they love doing on this map, and just bring like different ops. Like we decided to bring a bit of the Maestro and stuff, so we can play a bit more late game, and just trying to get general information, just so, because we know they're going to be so slow. We get that late game info with like Maestro and different like hard bulletproof cams and stuff.
I think that really leans into what some of the analysts have been saying about, when you're playing against Virtus.Pro, you really have to change your playstyle. We heard you mention a few things. Anything else you did today specific for preparation?
Yeah, I mean, pretty sure you guys know we've banned Ying Solace every time. We specifically didn't ban them today because, 1, like we said for Bravo, we know they love taking their time, loads of drones, doing what they want, and then 2, obviously they see us ban Solace a lot, and we know they love droning as well, so we left that up so we could start denying their drones, wasting time as well, which I think did throw them off. Although they did win most of their defenses, but it still worked for us, I think, quite well.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. Is there anything you want to say to the fans to close the interview?
Not really. Just, thank you for the support and the love. I know everyone loves me on Reddit as well. So thank you very much for keeping me in your hearts in good spirit and good faith. I'm sure I'll keep making you guys angry and just keep winning games and getting further than you ever get in Siege as well.
So you saw all my troll
thank you very much.
You saw all my troll
I did. I saw about 4 of them this morning and 1 last night.
I just love hating on you. That's it. I'm gonna keep making more accounts. Don't worry.
But at the end of the day, no matter how much hate you can get, you can always just call me fat and you'll win that by default. So.
We're both there, buddy. Don't worry about it.
I will say success is probably the best way of getting revenge, and you're definitely doing that so far. So congratulations on that, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Very confident from that one. See you next week.
It looks very likely if they keep doing what they're doing now. The last 2 games have been amazing. It's nice to see that they have such an in-depth game plan where they know what's going to happen, they know the way their opponents will play, and then getting rid of it just to add more operators to their own map or to their own operator pool. It's great to see.
Nice to hear that in the interview, of course, as well. But that's only been our first game of the day. We'll take a quick break, and on the other side of that, it'll be Into the Breach and Secret.